And over to Annaji for the fourth session of our series, Training in Dharma Practices. Over to Annaji.
Namaskar. It is a very happy occasion that immediately after Deepavali we are reassembling. Lest we have forgotten the first three sessions, I will have a small capsule of what we saw. The basic values of our nation, they have influenced the whole world. Octavius Paz, the Mexican poet, Nobel laureate, he said, I have studied the value systems of the world. 70% of it has come from the influence of India. In Australia, the Lawyers Conference said Indian value system did not have to change for the last 12,000 years. What are those values? Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. The whole creation is divine. Science is approach towards that. Ekam Sat Vipura Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one. Even the wise call it by a number of names. Einstein says, this is what crores of dollars are being spent to prove this. And then, Tat Tvamasi, man is divine, the modern psychology. Even the countries which do not believe in God, they believe that the human soul is full of energy, full of wisdom, full of happiness. And then fourth, the worship of women as sacred from the Yajurveda. Therefore, Ekam Satyapura Bahuda Vadanti, Tattvamasi, Ishavasam Idam Sarvam, Tvam Stri Tvam Puman are the basic values of Dharma which India has given to the whole world. And then all our saints, they said, if for solving all the problems of our lives, we will have to follow these values. How do we teach these values? Then what are the basic values from the Vedas, from the Patanjali, from Vedavyasa, from Krishna, from Buddha, from Mahatma Gandhi? We have found that Ahimsa Satya Steya Brahmacharya Parigraha Sausa Santosha Tapa Ishvara Pranidhana Swadhyaya. These are the basic values. They have calculated there are 300 legislators all over the country. Countries like India have got 30, 40 assemblies. America has got 50 states. And then some countries have got only one parliament. And they have passed 30 lakhs of laws. The Kanun. But if you put all of them into the mixie and take a juice, it will be Ahimsa Satya Steya, Brahmacharya Parigraha, Saucha Santosha Tapa, Ishvara Pranidhana Swadhyaya. Therefore, all the legal systems of the world, in fact, all the religions of the world, they only emphasize these values. Some religions give a different emphasis, some religions give this emphasis. And then how do we persuade people to follow these values? The concept of Sama, Veda, Dana, and Danda. Persuasion, punishment, allurement, and isolating the individual from the group in which he practices evil qualities. And then there are three different methods. We told the story of Ramakrishna for the son who has got a very good physique. He is given fish which is cooked in oil. Philosophy is like that. Very difficult to understand, but the most straight method. And then the next, the same idea is put through a number of stories. Therefore, our Puranas, our epics, they all, once upon a time, the whole world ridiculed our Puranas. These are all cock and bull stories. Now, UNESCO has appointed a commission. 100 volumes are to be published on Indian Puranas. 72 volumes have already come. I have purchased them. And then the rituals. The rituals, again, they said, oh, These are all for the pundits to cheat the people. These are all, they have no meaning. Now, scientific validation of a physicist. There is one center, European Center for Nuclear Research. They have spent 42,000 crores of rupees to find out the ultimate particle. On the doors of that laboratory, a Nataraja statue from India has been taken, and Adi Shankara's Shivananda Lagari, the 54th shloka, O Bhagavan, you are the ultimate who creates, preserves, and destroys the world. And who are the people who declared it open? Sir Robert Aymar, who was the director of that CERN, and Anil Kakodkar, India's Atomic Energy Commission chairman. Therefore, these icons, these rituals, these symbols, which were considered as cock and bull story, now they have become mainstream science in the world. Therefore, these values are fundamental to human life. They quicken the speed of evolution so that man can become God, man can become a better man can become a superman very fast. We have got two methods. One is Pipilika Marga. You allow Darwin theory to work. After all, from amoeba, Amitabha Buddha has come. Therefore, if you allow things to take their own course, it will definitely come. But we take the help of the Shastras, we take the help of science, we take the help of sciences like yoga and speed up the process. This is called the Vihangama Marga, the flying path. Therefore, Jacques Monod, a Nobel laureate on biology, he says, a stage has come, human beings have got to take the evolutionary steps and measures in their own hand and speed up. It is exactly what Krishna said, Uddharetatmanatmanam natmanam avasadiye. These are some of the points which are observed in the last three sessions. Now we go for the fourth. Training dharma practices. Both as individual, as a member of the group and a family, they have got methods of instilling these values, strengthening the individual to practice such values. Therefore, every aspect of his personality is to be tuned, is to be strengthened, is to be prepared, so that he can practice these values without any difficulty, because the path of yoga, the path of jnana is not for the weakling. Na ayam atma balahinena labhya, the Veda says. The physically Vedanta is not the meat for a weak stomach, Swami Vivekananda says. Therefore, a man has to be strengthened, equipped to face this. What are those methods by which an individual is strengthened? They are called Veda Angas. They are used to practice, used to strengthen the individual's all aspects. The first is Siksha. Siksha is every letter of a language is to be properly pronounced, so that they create the proper vibration in the society. Therefore, in languages like Tamil, we don't have ka, kha, ga, gha, all these. Therefore, there is a chance you have to pronounce a letter by identifying the nearby letter. But in Sanskrit, a letter, wherever it comes, it is pronounced to be exactly the same. There is no change in the pronunciation of a letter according to the position in a word. Therefore, phonetics, the science of correct pronunciation of letters, they create a proper vibration in the body. Therefore, these vibrations, they relax the system, they release the energy. There was one Ralph Abraham. He was a Jew. He worked in the California University. He is a world leader in mathematics in vibrations theory. He got stuck up. There was no progress. Then he got a message in Uttarakhand, there is a Neem Karoli Baba. You go to him. Then this Ralph Abraham, with a preparation to stay for 5 years, he went to Neem Karoli Baba. Baba said, why you are delayed? You should have come back earlier. Then he stayed in the caves of Himalayas for 5 years. The local people hosted him, gave him jaggery, sabji, and chapati. That is a simple meal. And then they taught him the basics of Yoga Vasishta, the concept of chanting mantras, the concept of pronouncing the aksharas properly. Then this man had a great lift in vibrations theory. He went forth to his University of California and he broke new ground in the theory of vibrations. How, when vibrations take place very fast, the material things created are created. When the vibrations are slow, then the mind is created. When the vibrations are slowest, the Atman is observed. Therefore, this is what exactly our teacher, Professor Satyanarayana Sastri, used to teach us. And then I saw this Ralph Abraham came to Ramakrishna Mission's conference on consciousness and design and his whole lecture. But unfortunately, I could not translate it into Indian languages because he is full of mathematics. But still, whatever can be done. Therefore, when you pronounce a letter properly, the vibrations that are they are relaxing, they release lot of spiritual energy. I have got a very practical experience. In Arunachali languages, all the letters of Sanskrit are not there. Therefore, the children find it difficult to pronounce some of the words, some of the letters. Even English language, they found it very difficult to pronounce the English words. Some of the teachers used to run away. It is so difficult. Then what happened? The matter was reported to Kanchi Shankaracharya. He said, let them chant the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, during Bhojana Mantra in Maharashtra also, many people during Bhojana, they while taking food, they chant this 15th chapter. This is Purushottama Yoga. All the children were taught how to chant the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, in which all the letters are pronounced. Therefore, it had a great effect on the brain. Now, modern research has done when you sing a song, when you pronounce a mantra, there are cell connections in the brain called synapse. They are developed. The cells are better linked, increasing the emotion, the intelligence, the awareness of the individual. Therefore, these Arunachal children, they chanted 15th chapter, all the 2000, 3000 children, they chanted. And then the effect was so much, they speak such good English, now teachers are afraid. Some of the children, they studied in Chennai. Uh, Montessori's son-in-law, he has opened a school, children's garden school. They came for higher secondary education. At the time in our Triplicane Vivekananda Kendra, there was Yuva Bharati's 25th year. The children sang Tamil songs. The Triplicane, which is a kind of capital for Tamil learning in Tamil Nadu, they were stunned. The children, their pronunciation of Tamil words was so good. They all stood up and applauded. They asked, how did it happen? It happened from pronouncing, chanting Bhagavad Gita. Of course, what I say, it took 7-8 years, but the achievement, there is a very difficult Mahishasura Mardani Stotra, Aigiri Nandini Nandita Medini. It is very difficult. It is a tooth breaker. But when the children sing, everybody is stunned. Therefore, the correct pronunciation of each letter, it strengthens the awareness of man, opens up unopened portions of the brain, increases the emotion, the intelligence, and synapse, the cell connection. The second method of strengthening the individual is Vyakarana. Vyakarana is called Vedanam Veda. That is the title which Veda itself, Chandogya Upanishad gives. Sanat Kumara teaches Narada Vyakarana as Vedanam Veda. Therefore, this understanding any language, if you understand the Vyakarana, the grammar, it is very easy. Vinobaji, he knows all the Indian languages. He can teach them like the like one's own mother tongue. He speaks French, Sanskrit, English. Then we asked him, how do you speak all the languages so easily? Then Vinobaji said something which I will remember all my life. Any person learning other languages, he compares the other languages with his own mother tongue, especially the grammar. If you are thorough with the grammar of your own mother tongue, it is very easy for learning other languages. Many people who find it difficult to learn other languages, they will be very weak in their own mother tongue, the grammar Vyakarana. Therefore, Vyakarana is described as Vedanam Veda, that is, strengthening the individual by understanding your own language. Therefore, each Indian language has got a beautiful Vyakarana. Sanskrit Vyakarana is supposed very, very difficult. But still there are people who have mastered it. Third is Nirukti. The meaning of each word, the origin of each word. The Upanishad itself says, while performing any ritual, any puja, you should understand the meaning of each word you are uttering, each sentence you are uttering. Then your awareness, your usefulness, your capacity to apply, your capacity to derive benefit from that mantra will increase. Therefore, the meaning. A word, an object is there. There is a word to denote that object. That object is the meaning of the word. Now, modern science is not able to understand what is the relation between an object and the word which means it. What is the meaning of the word meaning? They don't know. Dr. Roger Penrose, who got this year's Nobel Prize, he says, artificial intelligence has solved all the problems, but we don't know the concept of memory of human beings and the concept of meaning. A computer will understand a mango, but it will not say, I like a mango, I don't like mango, I don't like Karela. Therefore, the meaning of that substance, it doesn't understand. Now, this is the biggest challenge the artificial intelligence people are facing. Therefore, Nirukti, it helps us to understand the meaning of each word. Swami Vivekananda says, what is the ultimate word? The ultimate word is Om. Om is the word in which the meaning and the sound denoting the meaning are identical. Therefore, all the religions of the world, they use Om in some form or other. Christians say Amen. Muslims say Amin. One Sufi saint, Elias Khan, has written a book, Amin and Om. One Christian saint has written a book on Amen and Om. When Swami Vivekananda went to Japan, Yokohama, they asked him to give a magic tithe. He wrote Om, Om, Om. Buddhists chant the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. The Shramanas, Jains, they chant the mantra Om. Within Hindu Dharma, the Shaivites, they say Om Namah Shivaya. The Vaishnavites say Om Namo Narayana. Kartikeya, Om Sharavana Bhava. Ganesha himself is an ideal form of Om. Om Shakti, Om Shakti, Om. Om Hram Mitraya Namaha. Therefore, Om is the ultimate. Sarve Vedaya Tadam Mamananti. All the Vedas talk about that Om. Therefore, this concept of meaning is taken from the word Nirukti. The next panel. Kartikeyan. The next is Chandas. These letters and words are arranged in a poetical meter. This poetical meter, it influences your prana, the rhythm of your breathing. Therefore, every Vedic verse, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, whether it is Valmiki Ramayana, all of them are written in a particular chandas, in a particular meter it is called. Therefore, Valmiki, when he performed tapasya, out of his voice came that mantra, Manishada Prasittam Tvam Agama Shashwati Samaha Yatkrauncha Mithuna Dekam Avadi Kama Mohitam. After pronouncing this mantra, Valmiki himself started wondering, what is this? This is a new meter. I have never heard it. Then Brahma told him, this is a new meter created to write Valmiki Ramayana. It will live as long as the Panchabhutas live, as long as Akasha is there, as long as mountains are there, as long as rivers are there, your Chandas will be there. Therefore, this Chandas, it is like a bank of a river. It is like a tala of music. Therefore, they are very, very powerful. That is why Krishna says, Gayatri Chandasamaham. Among the Chandas, I am Gayatri. Therefore, every mantra has got a proper meter. Pronouncing them, there is automatical breathing. For example, Gayatri mantra has to be stopped at 5 places. It is automatic combination of Kevala Kumbhaka and breathing in and breathing out. Therefore, now music also has got its own tala. In this manner, the chandas, it has become a very easy way of practicing. There are certain people in India whose walking is according to a tala, walking and breathing. There was a film on the people of Kutch who go Kutch in western Gujarat, who go 40, 30 kilometers to bring pots of water. While walking, they sing songs. They walk rhythmically. There is automatic pranayama, automatic breathing regulated. Therefore, in India's culture, these are all inbuilt ways of improving an individual. And then next is a kalpam. Kalpam is a proper way of doing things. For example, our Homakunda. Our geometry came out of the Homakunda. Our metallurgy came out of Homakunda. Our botany came out of Homakunda. Our time measurement came out of Homakunda. Therefore, the Homakunda is something like a laboratory in India. And then the strict way of doing things. Valmiki says, when Rishiranga and the others performed the Putra Kameshti, every rule of Yajna was observed. They are so precise, so well defined, so accurate. Now, these yagas, yajnas, especially Agnihotra, are being repeated. In Pune, they have conducted an experiment. Yes, by performing Agnihotra, the cows yield more milk. In Solapur area, there are a number of grapes gardens. They performed these yajnas. They found the grape growth is much more. Therefore, we asked our teacher, why we are not able to produce the aeroplane? As there are some Shastras, he says, we don't know the methods. We have forgotten the methods. Therefore, that science has been there. But because there has not been continuous practice, we have forgotten all those arts. Therefore, there is a great movement, Agnihotra movement. One Dr. Madan Deshpande, he is a professor of ophthalmology in Military Medical College, Pune. He came and gave a lecture in Kendra. How the practice of Agnihotra improves the whole atmosphere. You all might have heard in 1969 in Bhopal, there was a huge accident in a cyanide factory. Thousands of people died. But those who practiced Agnihotra, they were all saved. Therefore, these signs of vibration, these signs of geometry, the signs of zoology, botany, use of herbs, use of medicine. There was one Joseph, he was a Christian, he was a gynecologist, he is a medical man. He heard in Kerala somebody is conducting a yaga, Putra Kameshti. He went and observed. He found the results are really what they expected. He gave up his allopathy medicine, dedicated his whole life for propagating Putra Kameshti. There was a one-page article in Hindu paper about this Dr. Joseph. Therefore, this Kalpam, the way of practicing all the sciences, the accuracy of pronunciation, another, Sami, the accuracy of pronunciation, the accuracy of action, the timing concept, all of them are built into Kalpa. In a very simple form, It has survived even our Rangoli. We find in front of our houses, we draw lines, dots, rounds, and beautiful design. Some two persons have done PhD and two persons have done MPhil on Rangoli. The psychological effect of Rangoli, the patterns in Rangoli, the most complicated, the most useful is Sri Chakra, about which we saw last year. It is ultimate representation of the universe itself. Therefore, this Kalpam is a great sign which man is understanding in bits and pieces. Some Russian scientists have worked on this Sri Chakra concept. And then Sri Chakra is, when it is three-dimensional, it is called Meru and Ardhameru. They are all studied. And finally, Jyotisha. Jyotisha is the science of timing, the accuracy of timing. This again, the West has ridiculed even in India. Many people ridicule this Jyotish Pandits, all it is all cheating the local people. But I will tell you, on 19th July 1969, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. 9 years before he landed, some 43 astronauts were selected and they were trained for 9 years. And then early in 1960, 70, some people, some 65, 66, some three people were to be selected for landing on the moon. Then the American ambassador to United Nations was very well versed in India's Jyotisha Shastra. He cast the horoscopes of all the 43 people who are undergoing training for 9 years. And then he took out the horoscopes of Neil Armstrong, Buzz, and then Miguel. All the three, they were the people whose physical strength, psychological strength will merge with the environment. Therefore, if you select these people, they will be successful. Therefore, the greatest achievement of science was sanctioned by Jyotisha. Indians were very, very learned in time. They have the concept of Kalpa, the concept of Yuga, millions and millions of years on the bigger scale. On the smaller scale, if you put 1,000 lotus petals together and run a needle, the time taken by the needle to cross from one petal to the other petal, they were a measure for measuring that time. Therefore, that was our concept of time from the smallest to the biggest. And then you know how to calculate the time from the Dhruva Nakshatra, from the stars, from the sun. For all that, our astronomy as well as our trigonometry were very perfect. What happened when steam engine was discovered? Thousands of people wanted to come to India. They built big ships, but unfortunately, they don't know how to calculate the time from the sun, from the moon, from the stars. Thousands of lives were lost. In Western Europe and England, thousands of people died because they did not know the timing concept. Their ships were lost. Then the kings, they asked the Christian padris, let them go to India and learn the concept of time. They came to Kochi, they learned the Jyotisha Shastra, the trigonometry, how to measure time based on the Dhruva Nakshatra, the stars, the movement of the sun and the moon, the speed of the ship and all that. Then thousands of ships were chased. Therefore, Jyotisha as a science, it has cost thousands of lives, the ignorance of that science. These are the six. Thiruvalluvar says, you can win the whole world if you launch your project on the right time. Nyalam karudinum kaigudum, kalam karudi ilattarchai. You can win the whole world if you launch your project at the right moment, right time. Therefore, these are the 6 ways by which an individual is strengthened so that his energies can be the best. For this, the whole human being, right from the mother's womb to the day he realizes God, that he himself is Brahman, there is a long travel. And Indian culture has trained the mothers, trained the families, trained the society through a number of samskaras. Samskaras means making a man a disciplined man, making a woman a disciplined woman, bringing out the best energy from them. Therefore, for us, a person's life starts the day a child is conceived in the mother's womb. There are certain rituals for that. And when the child is 6 weeks old, it is believed there is a hole opening up in the cerebral portion of the child through which Brahman enters into the child. Therefore, there is a ritual at the 6th week. And then, when the child is 7 months old in the mother's womb, there is a Simanta Unnayana. That is a ritual by which two parts of the human body will be in perfect symmetry. Then the child doesn't have to practice pranayama at all. The child will be always in a state of Kevala Kumbhaka. Both nostrils, the breathing rate will be equal. It is said about Rama, Samaha, Samavibhaktangaha. Rama had that ideal, that body. That is why we say Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. Rama is Dharma Vigraha. Therefore, this Simanta is a great ritual. And then they take the Vatavriksha's juice and sprinkle it in the woman's nose. There was one Professor Balasubramaniam in Gwalior University. I asked him, sir, is there any truth in such rituals? He said, I have tried it in the case of cows, in the case of other animals, and I found they make a very, very healthy child. Therefore, the child's awareness it starts increasing. Then the child can be a better child, a child with greater awareness. And then how samskaras are done? Samskaras are always done with panchabhutas in attendance. There is a sprinkling of water, there is a tasting of honey, there is a transferring of the head, there is Disha looking at the Dhruva Nakshatra. Therefore, you all know that we have to chant Gayatri in the morning facing east, in the noon facing north, in the east, in the evening facing west. Therefore, when in the southern hemisphere people could not see the Dhruva Nakshatra, many ships were lost. They had to find out alternate method. Therefore, these samskaras, they integrate the individual with the society. And the samskaras, they are all nowadays, science is learning to be more and more scientific. Therefore, in samskaras, there is use of all the panchabhutas. Fire is there, water is there, good smell is there, good food is there, then earth is there, all this. In South India, when a new child is born, that father will go and distribute seeds to every family nearby. They have to sprinkle seeds in their farm. In our own house, there is a new life has come. In your house also, that new lives come. Therefore, these samskaras, they are all ritual based. But as I told you, the rituals have got a psychological impact, they have got a religious impact, they have got a physical impact, they have got a mental impact. All the aspects of the body, they are impacted by these samskaras. Therefore, the next panel. The first one is conception. There are 5 words in Sanskrit to denote a mother. When she conceives a child, she is called Janani. When she bears the child in her womb, she is called Mata. When she delivers a child, she is called Prasavitri. When she supports the child, suckles the child, she carries the child on her lap. Tasminnapaha matarishva dadati. The Veda says, you are carried on the earth as if a mother carries the child on her laps. That is, Bhuma Devi is carrying you as a mother carries the child. Therefore, then she is called Datri. At the right age, the mother delivers the child to the teacher, then she is called Ambika. When I was a young man, I was wondered why for the word mother there are 5 words in Sanskrit: Janani, then Mata, Prasavitri, Dhatri, and Ambika. Now you know that there was an artificial sheep that was conceived, Dolly. Then there are 5 different mothers doing this job. Then only I understand that these 5 jobs are to be done with different psychological makeup, physical makeup. Therefore, there were mothers who cannot give milk to their own children. Therefore, there used to be wet mother. And now science has improved so much. One mother would conceive a child, another will deliver the child. Therefore, the concept of surrogate mother and all that has come. Therefore, these are 5 different jobs which a woman does with reference to the child: conceiving the child, carrying the child through 9 months in her womb, delivering the child. The importance of the right mental makeup of a mother at the time of delivering the child, it has been studied so well. When I went to Jaffna in Sri Lanka, the principal of Jaffna Medical College, he said, there are thousands of mothers whose husbands have died in the war. Therefore, they had a big shock. The child in the mother's womb had a big problem. Therefore, when the child was born, it was born with a number of problems. The mothers did not know how to handle. At that time, 3 Nobel laureates, they did work on the effect of mother's mental attitude on the mind of the child. That means, if the mother doesn't take proper care of the child when it is in your womb, you require a Nobel laureate to solve the problem. That was the importance of carrying a pregnant woman. Therefore, there is one Medha Suktam. It is a very short Suktam, 2.5 to 3 minutes. The mother was asked to listen to it properly. And then the child was able to recognize. There are methods by which now sex discrimination is banned by the government because many people were aborting the female child. Therefore, the government has banned. But there was one father who could find out his wife is carrying a male child. He named him and then called the child by the name when the child was in mother's womb. When the child was born, when the father uttered the name, the child looked back. That means the capacity of using the mind, using the ear, listening, responding, they are developed when the child is in the mother's womb. Therefore, when we talk about Abhimanyu story, when you talked about Prahlada story, that they learned Narayana Nama, that Chakravyuha, when they were in the mother's womb, there is every scientific validation. The knowledge of the child in the mother's womb, it grows very fast. And then another scientist, he did it to the mother's heartbeat. He chanted very positive words. You will be a good child. You will be an intelligent child. You will be a cooperative child. You will be a loving child. Such words were recorded to the tune of the heartbeat of the mother. The tape recorder was tied to the mother's womb in a belt. 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. That machine is called Baby Plus. When the child was born, they found the child was much more intelligent than the other children. Therefore, the concept that a child's intelligence, a child's awareness, a child's gunas are formed even when the mother's womb, it was proved by the science. That is why when we say, when Narada Muni uttered Om Namo Narayana to Kayatu, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, was the mother of Prahlada when she was carrying the child. Prahlada became the greatest devotee. Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, a great Vedantin, they asked him, what is bhakti? What Prahlada had towards Vishnu is called bhakti. All the others are only imitators of Prahlada. That was the kind of learning Prahlada had from Narada when he was in the mother's womb. We know the story of Abhimanyu. When Subhadra was pregnant, Arjuna and Krishna used to converse. They used to talk about various warfares, Chakravyuga and what. When Subhadra heard it, and then when Abhimanyu heard, he was able to enter the Chakravyuga. Therefore, knowledge starts from the mother's womb. That is our Vedic concept. Modern science is proving it again and again. The next panel. And then the child has to come out of the home. The child, when it comes out of the home for the first time, he has got such fear as a child would have when she comes out of the mother's womb. Therefore, there is a great shock for the child. There is a ritual by which the child is slowly taken out of the home, a mantra are chanted, the parents are with the child. Therefore, Nishkramana is a ritual by which the child comes out of the home and gets used to the society at large. And then what rate the child's intelligence grows, unbelievable. A child learns 1600 words per year. Me, at my age, I can learn hardly 2 words per year. The child's growing rate is amazing. By the time the child is 6 years old, 72% of the brain growth is completed. Therefore, our culture says 2/3 of 75% of the education is complete when the child comes out of the mother's care. When the child comes out from the mother's care to the school, education is all built. The basic structure is built. What you can do is only whitewashing the wall. The building the walls, it is already over. Therefore, the understanding of the child's brain, now lot of experiment is done. One such experiment is marshmallow experiment. Some 30 children were chosen. All of them were 4 years old. A professor came and told the children, we will give you all one marshmallow. Marshmallow is a sweet like our palkova. I will use the word chocolate instead. Chocolate, I will go out. I will come out after 15 minutes. If you wait for 15 minutes, I will give you one more chocolate. If you want to eat, okay, eat it. Then there was a camera photographing all the children. When the professor goes out, some of the children immediately peel the chocolate and eats them. Some of them very patiently, the professor will come back, he will give me one more chocolate. If I wait, I can eat one more chocolate. They very patiently sit. Then the remaining children, they go through the struggle. The whole thing is recorded. And then when the professor comes back, 20 out of 30 children have been waiting for him without eating that sweet. Then he gives them each one more chocolate. Then they studied the lives of the children for the next 16 years. The children, those who can control themselves at the age of 4, they became class leaders, social leaders, very expressive persons, artists, intelligent people. They can manage their own life. Therefore, now psychology is saying a person's life is shaped as early as 4 years. The willpower is endowed to the child when it is 4. Therefore, the English people, when I joined elementary school, I was not permitted until I was 6 years old. But now English people have changed. The Western Europe has changed. Madam Montessori came to India during the World War. She studied the Indian school system, that how the so-called pre-primary education before 6 years old, how the mothers teach the children, how every home is a school. Then she changed the so-called Montessori system. You start education at the age of 2.5 years. Therefore, the pre-primary, pre-KG, LKG, all the system, Madam Montessori came to India and learnt them, because for us, before the child is 6 years old, 3/4 of education of the child is complete. Therefore, this is a very, very important factor. And then the amount of protein the child gets before it is 6 years old, that is going to decide the brain size of the child. After 6 years, you pump the child with a lot of protein, it is not going to make much difference. The amount of protein the child is going to get before it crosses the threshold of 6 years, it is going to make a tremendous impact on the child. And then naming the child. In our culture, we name the children so that by pronouncing with Ajamila, he reached the heaven. We don't name the children cook, vessels, chappal, stone, fence. Such names we don't give. We always give a very, very positive name to the child. There is a relation between the name of the child and the vibration, because the name of the child is something which it is going to hear 100 times, 1,000 times, million times. Every time somebody calls you, they are going to call you by the name. And then for the naming, the mother and the father and the uncle, they have to come. It is a naming ceremony is there. Usually they name the child after the grandfather. Therefore, now modern science has proved there are certain values, certain traits, certain gunas which skip one generation from grandfather to the grandchild it comes. Therefore, grandfather's name is given to the grandchild. There is a science behind it. Russia learned this knowledge with a great cost. They did not know in wheat these traits are passed from one generation to another generation. This ignorance of that science, it ultimately led to the destruction of Russia itself. Therefore, naming the child, the father and the mother. One Mr. Cook, who was the Home Minister of England, he had a lot of problems. Many fathers and mothers were abandoning the children. Many fathers were not owning the children. Therefore, what to do? He came to India. He observed such a ritual. He passed a law that when the child is to be named, there should be a public function. Chaurai mein kadai hokar, when there is a junction of 4 roads, the father and the mother should carry. Now, when the child is about 8 or 9 months old, he is taken to the temple of the family deity and the head is shaved. What does that mean? We saw when the child is in the mother's womb, there is a hole in its head through which Brahman enters the child. It is called Brahmarandra, through which Brahman enters into the body. Therefore, when the head becomes strong enough to bear a hand, then the child is taken to a temple and the head is shaved. There is transfer is a Vedic ritual. And then the Karna Veda. Okay. The human ear is like a child in the mother's womb. Therefore, massaging that lobe portion is increasing the brain activity. There is an interesting story. There is a South Indian way of worshipping Ganesha. It is called the Dorbi Karanam. They hold the hands, the ears with the hands and Dandabaitak, sit and wait. It is called the Dorbi Karanam. It is one way of worshipping Ganesha. Then 3 neuroscientists of America, they found by doing this exercise, the synapse, the brain cells of the children, they are better connected. Even children who are mentally retarded, they are able to recover their brain capacity. Therefore, they wanted to take a patent saying this is super brain yoga. Holding the other ear by the hand and sitting and getting up. Dandabaita. This is called the Dorbi Karanam. And then they tried to make a patent, and then the Indian traditionally they had to go to court, stop it from saying that you have been practicing for thousands of years. Therefore, the human earlobe, piercing the earlobe, it is Karna Vedana, is a Vedic ritual. Therefore, this tonsure, then Annaprashana, when the intestine, the stomach of the child is strong enough to accept outside food instead of mother's milk, it is called weaning food. You take the child out of mother's milk and start feeding it with solid food. There is a ritual for it. That means the child's intestines, the stomach, is strong enough to bear the outside food. Therefore, every ritual by which the child is strengthened to perform its social duties, personal duties, they are all programmed so well. And then the Upanayana. Upanayana, opening the eye. Swami Vivekananda was very particular that everybody should learn Gayatri. There is a great saint born in Gujarat. He worked in Punjab and Haryana mostly and Western UP. He said everybody should learn Gayatri Mantra. Therefore, he threw the doors of Gayatri Mantra open to everybody. You find there is a Gayatri Parivar. Millions of people they chant Gayatri. When I went for the first time to Haryana, I find women chanting Gayatri, women wearing Janau. Therefore, Upanayana is opening the eye. When you are born from the mother's womb, your eyes open one. Then, when you are given proper education, your eyes open a second time. That's why you are called Dija, is twice born. Swami Vivekananda, Bharatiyar, our Dayananda Saraswati, they wanted everybody to learn Gayatri. Gayatri is our national mantra. Everybody should chant it. Initiation into Gayatri is called Upanayana. And then for the next 12 years, the boy has to practice Brahmacharya. Then all his physical powers, the mental powers, intellectual power, they all grow up. That is the best year of learning one's life. Therefore, then the person enters Vivaha. Our dharma is the only dharma which says Vivaha is an ashrama. One Count Kaiserling is a German prince. He has produced a book of marriages. He has studied the marriage systems of every country in the world. He has produced a book, the Book of Marriages. About Sanatana Dharma, Tagore has written an article. It's a marvelous book. He says India is the only country which calls Grahastha as a Grahastha Ashrama. Just like Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa, this is also a very sacred place. Thiruvalluvar, the Tamil Dharma Adhikari, he goes one fact to say, Ilvalvan Enban, Elbudayam Uberkum Nallatin Nindatonai. It is on the Grahastha, the whole society depends. The king collects taxes only from the Grahastha. The Vyapari, he earns his profit only from the Grahastha. The beggar, he earns his meal only from the Grahastha. Therefore, the Grahastha is the support to the whole world, whole community. Therefore, anybody in the country does anything, utters God's name, performs a dana, a part of the punya goes to Grahastha. Grahastha automatically, a part of that punya goes to him because he is the support of the whole world. Therefore, in Indian culture, Vivaha is not a social contract. It is not an act of sin. It is a very, very sacred ritual. In the Upanishad, it says, ultimately Brahman was one. It is split into two. And then it goes on searching the other half so that his existence can be completed. That is our Ardhanari principle. Now, the Chinese yin and yang, the Western concept of right brain and left brain, they all confirm that the human body has got two halves. In one is sharp in emotion, the other is sharp in intellect. An ideal person have to have a balance of those things. Therefore, in those days, a king was not permitted to become a king if he is a bachelor. A king has to get married. A part of his enthronement was the marriage act, so that a man will be able to know all the problems of the society. Therefore, this Vivaha is a very, very sacred ritual. There are very elaborate mantras. After that, the man and woman become two bodies but one soul, because they started the whole journey from one soul expressing itself through body. Therefore, the two halves are complementary to each other. That is what science also says. There was a Niels Bohr. He was one of the earliest scientists to become a Nobel laureate. Therefore, when he was made a laureate, He chose as his coat of arms this Ardhanari Tattva, the yin and yang Tattva, the male and female principle. That was this symbol. Therefore, even science has come to agree, yes, a man is not complete, a woman is not complete, both of them together only complete. Therefore, we have got the concept of Dakshinamurti. We have got a concept of Kamakshi. We have got a concept of Ardhanari. Kamakshi is the male is inside the female. That's why you are all worshippers of Kamakya in Assam. Then Dakshinamurti, the woman is in the male. In Ardhanari, both of them are equal. These are the three ways in which man and woman are connected. Therefore, the concept of Vivaha is giving a scientific, a social, and a moral approval to this concept. A man is incomplete without a woman. Therefore, even a brahmachari has to worship the universal mother to maintain his brahmacharya. A sannyasi has to worship the universal mother to maintain his sannyasa. The concept of family is a very, very sacred concept in our dharma. The idea of a family, it went before the concept of marriage came. In forest, animals live, trees live, they all live as families. You might have found jungle animals, they all live as a family. Therefore, the family concept is nature's own organization. Without a family, no individual can become a better human being, an ideal human being. Therefore, even for a sannyasi, he does not give up the family. He thinks of the whole creation as his family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Such a person, when he dies, I told you how the soul enters into the human body stage by stage. All the stages are put in the reverse gear, and then slowly the soul is withdrawn from the human body and sent on its way to heaven. Therefore, the post-funeral ritual, after the person is dead, the rituals have got number of meaning. They thought after when a person dies, everything is finished for him. But when they AIDS, the disease, the AIDS, it became a rampant in the Western. There were laboratory observation of deaths. In many laboratories, they found when a person died, some kind of things, some hazy, wave-like, smoke-like thing is leaving the human body. Therefore, for the first time, death was observed in the laboratory. Yes, some energy leaves the body and it takes another body afterwards. After that, we will study it in some other trip. There was one Jarat Karu. He comes as a patra in Mahabharata. That man was not interested in marrying. He was roaming about. Once he went, he found a number of people hanging upside down on the trees. He asked him, "Who are you?" Arey Baba, we are all forefathers of one boy called Jaratkaru. This Jaratkaru is neither become a sannyasi, becoming an Atmajani, nor he is getting married and begetting progeny who can offer us Kilatarpana. This fellow is neither marrying nor becoming a Brahmajani. If you meet Jaratkaru, you tell him, do either of them. You either become a sannyasi and realize your own self. There is no rebirth for you. Or get married and beget good children. Therefore, the concept of Jaratkar is so important. In Sandhyavandana Mandara, we have to chant Jaratkaru's name every day. Therefore, universal concept, health concept, social concept, physical concepts, they are all put in ritual. You may think these are very, very difficult to observe. But once you are born in a culture, it comes to you with your mother's womb. Therefore, we did some work on creativity. He says, the contemporary society, it influences your brain. Just because you live in a society, ideas enter your brain without your making effort. This is science is talking this language. Therefore, the concept of satsanga, living in the right country, in the right society, at the right time, even without our knowing, the values, they enter into our system We practice them without our knowing. That is why if you chant in the name of Vasishtha or Agastya or Yajnavalkya or Janaka, who has studied all the Dharma Shastras and practicing great Dharma, I will tell you 100 names like Gora Kumbar, Savata Mali, Oru Chahukar, Chakubai, who didn't know even the name of the Dharma Shastra and they lived the life of Dharma. That is the impact of the society on the individual. Therefore, the individual and the society, they intermingle through such rituals. The child is brought up to be a good member of the society. We will continue the discussion. As our dear Sumant was saying, tomorrow's session will be at 4:30. He will confirm. Namaste.
Yeah.